call this meeting of the Michigan Public Service Commission to order on May 2nd at 1:30 p.m. Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Chairman Talbert.
Present.
Commissioner Sari.
Present.
Commissioner Scripps.
Present.
Madam Chair, we have a quorum.
Thank you. I feel like we're being consistently on time since you joined us on the commission. Commissioner Scripps. It could be a coincidence, but...
A supreme irony for anybody who knows me.
All right, first up, is there a motion to approve the agenda?
Madam Chair, move approval of the agenda for today's meeting.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. The agenda is approved. Next up, the meeting minutes.
Madam Chair, move approval of the minutes of the regular commission meeting of April 18th, 2019.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The meeting minutes are approved. Next up, we have item 3, approval of orders on the consent agenda, and today the commission is assisted by Attorney Kelly Barber Dodge and staff.
Good afternoon. Today's consent agenda consists of one communication matter and one gas matter that are listed on item 3 of today's agenda. The proposed orders for each of these matters have been thoroughly vetted by the Commission's technical and legal staffs and are ready for your approval.
Madam Chair, I move approval of all orders listed on today's consent agenda.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. The orders are approved.
Item 4A1 is case number U18383, which involves a petition for rehearing filed by Consumers Energy Company in response to the Commission's April 18th, 2018 order. The order before you denies the petition.
Madam Chair, I move approval of order U18383.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The order is approved.
Item 4A2 is case number U20162, which involves an application filed by DTE Electric Company for authority to increase its rates for the sale and distribution of electric energy. Staff member Jel Resnick is here to describe this order.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, Commissioners. On July 6, 2018, DTE Electric Company filed an application with the Commission to increase its rates, amend its rate schedules and rules governing the distribution and supply of electric energy, and for miscellaneous accounting authority. The rate increase sought in this proceeding is based on the company's projections for investment, expenses, and revenue for a 12-month period ending April 30th, 2020. DTE requested a $328.4 million base rate increase plus a $148.2 million increase due to simultaneously ending the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act Credit A for a total requested increase of $477 million to cover its projected electric revenue shortfall. DTE requested a return on common equity of 10.5%. The company explained in its application that additional revenues are necessary for increased costs associated with additions to its generation and distribution system, capital structure cost changes, increased operation and maintenance expense, and inflation and accounting standard changes. The company's request also included additional funding for a tree trimming surge program. The Commission's order provides that DTE Electric shall submit annual reports on the enhanced tree trimming program with information separately highlighting progress for the City of Detroit. The annual report shall include measurable data for the program, including miles completed by each DTE service center, comparison of the performance of circuits, the cost, number of employees directly involved, outage reductions, and whether the funding for the efforts is a capital expense or operations and maintenance cost. The first report is due March 1st, 2020, and an annual report is due on March 1st of each year thereafter. DTE Electric shall also file the tree trimming effectiveness report in 2022 at the conclusion of the 3-year surge program. In its next electric rate case filing, DTE Electric shall file a comprehensive plan for piloting new rate D1 summer on-peak rates. DTE Electric is authorized to implement a distributed generation tariff as described in the order, where inflow will be set at the full retail rate and outflow calculated as power supply less transmission. The order rejects DTE's proposed system access contribution charge. DTE Electric shall submit an updated nuclear decommissioning study for the Fermi 2 nuclear power plant with its next electric rate case application. DTE Electric is approved $13 million for its electric vehicle pilot program, Charging Forward, to be amortized over a 5-year period. The order before you adopts a test year of May 1st, 2019 through April 30th, 2020, a jurisdictional rate base of $17 billion, an authorized return on common equity of 10%, and an overall rate of return of 5.48%. The order authorizes DTE Electric to implement rates that increase its annual electric revenues by $273.3 million over the rates previously approved by the Commission in April 18th and June 18th, 2018 orders in case number 18255. DTE Electric is authorized to implement the rate increase and distributed generation tariffs approved by this order on May 9th, 2019. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for your assistance in this case, Jill. Commissioners?
Madam Chair, I move approval of Order U-20162.
Madam Chairman, I have abstained from participating in any discussion or deliberations relating to this matter and am recusing myself from today's vote.
I will second the motion, and then Commissioner Sari for your remarks.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This rate case includes decisions on visionary programs concerning DTE Electric and its ability to provide safe, reliable, and economic electric service to over 2 million Michigan residents. I want to highlight two transformative issues: an electric vehicle program and the upgrading of electric distribution system in the city of Detroit with an emphasis on tree trimming. The Commission is authorizing DTE Electric to begin the pilot EV program Charging Forward to assist the utility and the EV industry to learn more about the increasing electrification of the transportation sector. Detroit will soon be seeing electrified Mustangs, Rivians, Waymos, Jeeps, Cadillacs, and other locally manufactured vehicles in the showrooms and on its streets. The next 3 years will be formative times in a fast-changing and charging industry. New electrified and likely autonomous vehicles will use technology to move people and commerce throughout the city and state. There are still evolving issues with EV deployment, and the Commission is working with utilities and multiple stakeholders to address programs on education, EV impacts on the electric grid, rate issues for pricing at charging stations, and where public charging stations should be located. We look forward to DTE Electric convening its public workshops to finalize and roll out these new pilot programs. Second, the electric distribution system in the city of Detroit has suffered from decades of neglect and an insufficient commitment to needed maintenance programs. Improving the city's electric infrastructure is critical to continued growth downtown and revitalization of neighborhoods. During the rebuild of these systems, there can be no compromise of safety, and the Commission subscribes to the goal of 0 injuries or fatalities caused by the electric distribution system. We are carefully monitoring DTE Electric as it proceeds with engineering and construction to rebuild substations, replacing aging electrical equipment, and reconductor its distribution lines. This rate case provides additional funding for the company to make major improvements with a focus on enhanced tree trimming to improve safety and reliability. DTE Electric crews need to travel the alleys in Detroit and uncover long neglected, overgrown electric distribution lines. Through this rate case, we have worked with the company and interveners to refine programs and provide the funding for enhanced tree trimming and measurements to define success. We are giving the utility clear guidance trim the damn trees. Thank you, Madam Chair.
I'm not on Twitter, but I think hashtag TTDT might be appropriate. On the issue of tree trimming, I just would note that it's important to stress landowner and community outreach and how critical, and I know that there's been a lot of progress in that regard, but it's just something to keep front and center because it is so important to make this go smoothly, but ultimately ensure reliability and resiliency of this system. I also would note this is a significant undertaking with contractors in place to do the tree trimming, and the oversight and productivity of the crews is absolutely essential to ensure that this investment is benefiting the system and ensuring reliability. So I'm going to cover three topics in my remarks. First, I want to talk about electric distribution planning and investments. This case comes on the heels of DTE's long-term electric distribution plan that was a major initiative by the commission, the staff, the utility, and stakeholders over the past several years. That plan was called for by the commission in a prior rate case and involved an open planning process to create an inventory of system conditions and needs and to prioritize the investments in both infrastructure and maintenance over the long and short term. It was the first ever of its kind. So a lot of work that went into that. We saw, based on direction from the commission, DTE's plan really focused on safety and reliability, and that is so critical given the challenges with aging infrastructure. It was part of the evidentiary record in this case, and it was augmented by significant testimony by expert witnesses from the staff, the utility, and interveners on how to modernize the electric distribution system in the most prudent way possible. The commission also benefited from hearing from new intervener, Solidarity, in this proceeding to emphasize the importance of investments in Detroit, as Commissioner Sari talked about. Our order today represents a major commitment to safety and reliability with $830 million of capital investments for the distribution system alone, as well as a near doubling of the tree trimming funding. To be clear, DTE's current performance is inadequate and does not meet our expectations. Still, the utility has demonstrated follow-through on tree trimming and infrastructure programs over the last several years and has justified the funding being authorized in this order. Much of this activity is focused in and around the city of Detroit. So we're going to, as Commissioner Sari mentioned, we're going to be monitoring this closely going forward. This distribution planning process was a success, and it's an iterative process. So we'll continue with new plans that are slated for mid-2020 and have opportunities for stakeholder input on those as well. For more information, the guidance the Commission provided for this next iteration of plans was provided in case U20147, and we also have an issue brief on this topic and others on the website, and there's more information about the process under the hot topics on the Commission's website. So moving to electric vehicles, I just want to acknowledge Commissioner Sari's leadership on electric vehicles and working with staff, stakeholders, and other state agencies to help shape our regulatory approach to ensure the changes in the transportation sector with increased electrification are beneficial to ratepayers. The pilots approved for DTE, along with the programs for Indiana, Michigan, and Consumers Energy that were previously approved, focus on planning and mitigating grid impacts, effective rate design, and customer education. We've got an issue brief that'll be available on our website later today that describes all three utilities programs and a little bit more background on how this process transpired. It's also under our documents library on the website. I just would note the amount of consensus around this topic in this case that was so highly contested on a number of over 100 issues were contested was just a testament to the good work that went into this and the discussions that led to a successful outcome. So again, thank you. All right, so the third topic, distributed generation. Speaking of controversy, this was the source of large amounts of testimony in the case and a lot of the briefing. And this involves the pricing for customers with distributed generation, such as solar panels located at their homes or businesses. Today, as directed by the 2016 energy laws, the Commission is issuing a landmark decision to phase out net metering and to approve a new methodology that reflects an equitable cost of service for customers participating in the program. We received thousands of comments, over 3,000, from the public asking the commission to reject DTE's proposal for a system access contribution charge. This is an unprecedented number of comments, at least in my tenure here on the commission. I know the executive business section appreciate all of your hard work to have those recorded in the docket. The commission is approving the staff's proposed inflow-outflow methodology, which was recommended by the administrative law judge and supported by staff witnesses Rob Ozar, Kevin Kraus, and Julie Baldwin. The commission is rejecting DTE's proposal for the system charge, as well as the utility's proposed rate for outflow based on wholesale market prices. And just for background, outflow is electricity being supplied to the grid, out to the utilities distribution grid, and it doesn't include any generations being used on site by the customer from their own generation. The rate approved by the commission for outflow fully compensates the customer with distributed generation for both energy and capacity that it provides to the utility. To be clear, customers with distributed generation will not pay the system access contribution charge. There were considerable points made about costs and benefits associated with customers with their own generation and subsidies on their existing net metering framework. The Commission's decision reflects the directives from the 2016 law. We are implementing that law faithfully, both the letter and the spirit. We'll monitor the costs and benefits going forward to ensure rates continue to align with cost of service principles. We also have an issue brief on this available on the website. So in closing, I just want to acknowledge the hard work of all the staff and parties to the case. In my nearly 6 years serving on the commission, this case stands out in its complexity and scope. There's several issues of first impression to be decided by the commission. Just to put things in perspective, so there were 68 witnesses, over 100 contested issues, thousands of pages of testimony, so that included a transcript of over 4,300 pages and 400 exhibits. And then over 3,000 comments from the public, which our student assistant, which I think tomorrow's his last day, went through all of them and verified all but two were related to the distributed generation topic. This case was the first one handled by Judge Wallace in her new capacity. She did an excellent job presiding over a lengthy evidentiary hearing last December and preparation of the proposal for a decision. Our attorneys and advisors worked tirelessly as a team to advise on the deliberations and prepare the order and outreach materials. And this is all done under a very compressed 10-month schedule set in law. And with that, any further comment? No? All right. So all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The order is approved. Thank you.
Item 4A3 is case number U20497, which involves an application by Michigan Electric Transmission Company, LLC, Wolverine Power Supply Cooperative Incorporated, and Midwest Energy and Communications, requesting that the Commission issue an ex parte determination classifying a proposed 138 kilovolt facility as transmission. The order before you denies the joint applicant's request for ex parte determination and opens a contested case by setting dates for a pre-hearing conference and for the filing of petitions for intervention. The order directs the joint applicants to serve the order on interested parties and instructs the joint applicants to publish the notice of hearing. The Commission will read the record in this matter.
Madam Chair, I move approval of order U20497.
Second.
And Commissioner Scripps.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Without addressing the substance of whether this is in fact a transmission or distribution project, the determination of which will be addressed through the process laid out in today's order, I want to stress my concerns about a flawed MISO process. While MISO correctly argues that another entity should make the determination of a contested transmission versus distribution project, its decision to include the project in MTEP 18 effectively presupposes that the project is in fact transmission. A better process would be to ask the entity with appropriate jurisdiction to make such a determination before a project is included in the MTEP list. As such, in addition to today's order, the Commission is seeking to intervene in the open FERC docket related to the underlying project. In that intervention request, we noted our support for METC's motion to FERC to hold its case in abeyance so that we can apply the 7-factor test, an appropriate role given the role states play under the Federal Power Act. That said, if FERC determines that it has jurisdiction in this case, we ask that they move quickly. Finally, this case and the underlying dispute exposes some of the challenges and barriers associated with the consideration of non-transmission alternatives in the MISO planning process. The MPSC encourages FERC to consider an inquiry into these broader issues outside of this proceeding. This is timely and relevant given the rapidly evolving energy landscape, new technology, and business model applications, and the changing nature of how the transmission and distribution systems will operate going forward.
Thank you. I agree. We'll have them in action at our next meeting, just memorializing the notice of intervention. All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The order is approved.
Item 4B1 is case number U20520, which involves a matter on the Commission's own motion to require McLean Transport LLC to show cause why it should not be found in violation of the Dig Underground Facility Damage Prevention and Safety Act. The order before you opens this docket, schedules a pre-hearing conference, and directs McLean Transport to file testimony by May 30th, 2019.
Madam Chair, I move approval of order U20520.
Second?
And Commissioner Sari.
Yeah, thank you. This issue kind of reflects the decision that we had at our last commission meeting, where in fact Dig is a very effective safety program that if you are not following the guidance and direction on Dig, it's the commission staff's responsibility, and we have a very, very efficient commission staff, to point this out and commence appropriate corrective action. It's disconcerting that that corrective action has not been taken, so this is somewhat of an extreme that the commission is mandating that this company come in and appear before us to explain their actions. Dig is there for the safety of everyone, for the contractor, for the utility, for the residents, for the businesses, and we again emphasize the importance of following these safety programs. So I look forward to the additional discussion on this issue.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The order is approved. All right, next up, we have item number 5 for public comment. I do have 2 cards here. Mr. Hazard, you want to come up? If you can, hey, Jill, move that tape. Mr. Hazard, is it better for us to pull out the chair, or would you prefer? Okay. Okay. Okay.
I think we feel up here.
Thank you for joining us.
Township. I'm here today to make comments about DTE. I get this bill for $400 and some odd, and a call that says they're going to shut my power off because my meters haven't been read properly. Well, they're the ones that read the meter. Now, we paid the bill, and I can understand you got to reconcile all this stuff. But then they keep calling me. If anybody called me that much, I'd call the police for harassment, but you can never get a hold of anybody when you call back to the number they give. They can't tell you how long you got to wait. They can't tell you how many people are in front of you. They don't have a callback number, but they keep calling. So it just tells me that somebody is very, very incompetent on how they're scheduling and getting this information out. And it's very irritating when you try to do something and correct anything, and they don't have the capability or train people to answer the questions or take the information. And there's no recourse for anything until something breaks down. They're supposed to be checking the gas meters. Call the number they give. They don't even have any schedule to do anything yet. The only intelligent person I've talked to probably in the last 6 months is a gentleman came in from DTE and said they're going to change the meter on the back of the garage because it's got one of the inactive meters. They're going to put one that doesn't have any control. And he said, I will let you know before we do it. Now, that's the first intelligent conversation I've had with any DTE employee probably in the last year and a half. It's very frustrating, very irritating. They want you to do this, they want you to do that, you can't talk to them, they don't listen to you, and they can't even be smart enough if they have something special to put one line on their bill that says, we need to talk to you, and here's a number that you can get us. They don't have that. So I don't know why they put all this stuff out. It's extremely frustrating, and as far as I'm concerned, they're one of the most incompetent facilities that I've ever dealt with in my life.
Thank you. Have you filed a complaint with us? Just, I mean, I guess I just leave that as an option,
No, I
whether it's
haven't, but I'll
formal
be glad to.
or informal. I think it would just be helpful to have more of the specifics, and
I
we've
can
got
put it all
staff
in
here.
writing.
Yeah, we've got staff here, and they can help kind of walk you through that process.
Well, I know how to do that, dear.
Okay, all right.
No, as a registered professional engineer for 50 years, I did troubleshooting in construction management, on power plants, nuclear fusion, railroads, docks, bridges. I worked in all the facilities. So I understand what it needs to get information out. But DTE, it's like, they don't care. It's like they think they walk on water, and it's only because somebody told them where the stones are. So anyway, before I really get off, I'll stop. But yeah, I'll make a formal written complaint.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for yours. All right, and David Lewins with Power Home Solar. Welcome. Welcome.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Thank you for allowing me to comment today. I would like to ask for just a little clarification on U-20162 as it regarded to net metering. Under your decision today, the amount that customers, whether they're residential or commercial customers, will be credited to their account for power that is not consumed during the day will be the wholesale rate of power, or will it still be the retail rate as current net metering is established?
So, Mr. Lewins, or Lewis,
Lewins.
Yeah, Lewin, sorry. We aren't going to get into the details, I mean, other than what we articulated in the summary. The order will be available later today.
I didn't quite understand the summary. Could you repeat the summary, please?
Do you want to go through that, Jill, just that portion of the summary? And then we also have an issue brief that's available that specifically on this issue that goes into detail on the credit that's applied to the outflow, the amount the customer's, pushing out to the grid, as well as other details.
So is there a difference between residential and commercial? Because there's five rate classes.
Right. That's all addressed in the order and the tariffs that are attached that'll be available within about 2 hours and available on our website. And then there's a summary of all that in the issue brief as well.
As it relates to the current true-up, which is based on a 12-month period of time, I know in DTE's request in their court case, they requested that true-up be based on real-time, day by day. The judge's opinion was that true-up, his recommendation or her recommendation was that it was to be on a 30-day calendar basis. What is the true-up period?
The purpose of this public comment period is to hear from you, not to ask questions of the commission. So I point you to the references we have and the order. There's a table of contents so you can kind of, you don't have to read all 215 pages of the order. Right. But it addresses the commission and its decisions in full. Jill, if you just want to read that particular part of the summary to recap.
DTE Electric is authorized to implement a distributed generation tariff as described in the order, where inflow will be set at the full retail rate and outflow calculated as power supply less transmission. The order rejects DTE's proposed system access contribution charge.
So based on that, that is pretty much the wholesale cost of power. And we feel that is a great disservice to consumers in the state of Michigan. It's a great disservice also to small businesses in the state of Michigan, because in order to put solar, a typical solar system, a customer is producing power at approximately 5 cents per watt. This ruling basically puts that at slightly underneath 5 cents per watt, and that is, a disservice to the state of Michigan people who live here. And it's going to really have a significant effect on people installing solar moving forward. People that are environmentally concerned, and it's interesting because we conducted a survey of several hundred of our customers over the last year, and the number one reason people have been installing solar, we originally thought it was because of the value and the cost proposition. 68% of the people said that it's because of the environment and the ability that they want to be able to generate clean generation power for their homes and for their businesses, and to be able to take advantage of that. So I thank you for the opportunity to address the commission today.
Thank you. And I really would encourage you, because the specifics are different than you were laying out, so I refer you to those materials. Thank you. All right, anyone else seeking to address the commission at this time? All right, seeing no one, that concludes today's meeting. Our next meeting is scheduled for May 23rd at 1:30 p.m. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Madam Chair, I move to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.